welcome back. Now let's turn our attention down to Nepal, where a protest erupted, the Gen Z protest they called it, over the fact that about 26 social media platforms were banned in the country. And the reason the government banned those social media companies was because they did not register with the Ministry of Technology or the IT department in Nepal. And of course, we had young Gen Zs storm the streets to protest against the ban. And beyond that protest, a lot of protesters have also said that the protest was beyond just the social media banning, but it moved to protesting against nepotism, protesting against corruption, which has led to, according to reports, 19 persons killed already and hundreds of persons injured. However, to join us have this conversation this morning is Mr. Hart Belema. Good morning to you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
good morning.
It's good to have you on the program. Let's talk about the ban, which of course 26 social media platforms in Nepal, which sort of this very movement. But of course, according to many observers, the protests are about much more, which I mentioned, the corruption, nepotism, and all of that. Would you say that this was more about censorship or deeper frustration by the youth of Nepal?
The censorship was just a trigger. It was quite insensitive of the government to censor social media at that time. There were just so much complaints in the country. The children of the rich, as we call them, Nepo babies, were living extravagant lifestyles, and they were not hiding it from the poor.
Right.
It was being put in the faces of the poor, and it erupted into what has now become a horrendous situation in Nepal. So the social media ban was a trigger. They say when they want to make you mad, I think you dance naked first. They needed that dance to trigger what has now become very unfortunate in Nepal.
All right. One of the things that characterizes Nepal is their inconsistency in governance. They've had multiple people since 2006 when they went into democracy. They've had multiple people rule the country, and their governance is quite unstable. Do you think this plays a major role in the crisis we now see playing out in Nepal?
No, I don't think that's the problem. The problem is corruption. Corruption at the root of, I think too many small nations have this issue with corruption and authoritarianism. The president thinks, or the prime minister thinks he's the master of all, and no one can say to him, yes, of course, because you control the military and the police. But unfortunately, the military and the police had to take a back step and allow the protesters have their way. And we have seen what has happened. It's just the fact that democracy should be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Absolutely. Unfortunately, in such climes, democracy has become government of the rich, for the rich, by the rich.
And of course, you mentioned the fact that Nepal is a small nation. According to statistics, about 30 million people thereabouts. And over 40% of the population are under 25. And yet, there's unemployment in the nation as it is. But again, looking at that unemployment, you mentioned corruption being one of the reasons that the youth decided to go on this protest. Unemployment is there, but now they're on the street. They are destroying properties in the country. The parliament has been burnt down, right?
Hilton
burnt down. Many country facilities already burnt down. How does this translate, to making a nation better?
And that's the problem. You see, I say, protesting is a democratically guaranteed right. Restoring properties is not, it's a crime. And these guys that have done this are criminals, and they need to be arrested and punished. And you see, I think this ignorance is majorly with countries that already have problems. You already have an infrastructure deficit, right?
You're destroying
You are not destroying the little you have. Now, where do you get the resource to rebuild? Now, investors came into your country just this year to put up the Hilton. And you know what the Hilton does for international businesses? You can come and have your meetings, you can come and have seminars, you can come and have international events. Are you getting me? And you go and you burn it down. Now, where would the investors come from? And when there's no inflow, are you getting me? There's no way you can boost your economy. So Nepal should be ready for years of suffering. They should go and look at what is happening in Libya. Are you getting me? They should be ready for years of suffering. And now, guess what the youths are saying? That the protest was hijacked. You see the problem again. Okay, now who are you going to hold responsible? You triggered the process. You have seen mass destruction, you have seen deaths, and now you're saying that the process was hijacked, but you triggered the process. You see, that's why you see when you talk to people and you tell them, when you want to protest, you try as much as possible to make it a protest that will not be hijacked, and if possible, not even protest at all. If you cannot control it, if there cannot be leaders, if there cannot be people held accountable, because it will lead to the massive destruction we have now seen in Nepal.
Of course, we've also seen similar cases in Nigeria where some of our youth during protests will also say that some of the protests have been hijacked, especially when we come to the NSAS protest. It was hijacked, according to reports as it is. So sometimes it might be impossible, for a protest to go on without being hijacked as it is. Nepal had a reason for going on that protest, right? And that is going to be the defense of the youth. So at this point, when the protest has been hijacked, would this put the blame basically on the young people?
Would you put who do you put the blame on? No, I'm asking you. What do you put the blame on?
There could be other factors there.
What factors? You're protesting. Guess what? They had 7 points for their protest.
Right.
One of which was they wanted a new government which they would nominate. The guy in charge of the country resigned. I said, okay, hands off, I'm not doing it again.
Okay.
Why did you not stop the protest? That's the problem I also had with the NSAS protest. Are you getting me? You had a 7-point agenda. The president came out and met your agenda, and you refused to stop. And now you're saying it was hijacked. Hijacked by who? So when you will start to protest, and that's why I say it again, I think this thing happens in countries and nations that are underdeveloped. I think there's a systematic error, because I've seen protests happen in London. I've seen protests happen in the US. We hardly see this kind of hijack that will go as far as destroying the parliamentary building, destroying the presidential palace, beating up ministers. They had to escape via helicopters, killing and maiming people. I saw yesterday ordinary citizens handling high-level military-grade weapons. Do you know what that means? That means armory is now in the hands of ordinary people. Do you know what that means? Crime and criminality will escalate. Guess what? I also hear that people have escaped from prisons. That means hardcore criminals that were incarcerated are now roaming around in the street. Don't worry. What the youth think they want to achieve, which they already achieved, and would have piped low, will now be the downfall of Nepal.
Wow.
Okay. Now you have made mention of the fact that you've seen protests in America, you have seen protests in different parts of the world, and this is like a phenomenon that is particular to developing countries like Nigeria and Nepal, as you've said. But just today we were having the conversation about this guy, Charlie Kirk, that was shot in the US. And if you follow the conversations, the trail of conversations that are happening online, you would see that politically inspired violence, where people no longer agree with the system of leadership and they feel the need to counter that kind of leadership through violence. Although theirs might not be protesting on the streets and disrupting properties like that, but the lives of people have been lost. And even in properties, we have seen, I think it was Kamala Harris' office that was burnt, or one of that prime minister. I've been trying to remember the name of that prime minister or that political office holder that her security was revoked by.
That's Kamala Harris.
That's Kamala Harris. Yes, her office was burnt twice. We've seen several levels of violence happening in this part of the world. Now, a lot of analysts are of the opinion that this is a kind of revolution that is happening across board, not just in underdeveloped countries, but in developed countries as well, where people are no longer okay with the kind of leadership that they get, and so there's a kind of resistance from them. Do you think this in any way is lodging towards the coffers of the Nigerian political system?
No, I sincerely beg to differ on that view.
Okay.
What happened yesterday in the US was strictly political assassination. Okay. And it was unheard of in American history.
Okay.
And the American president has taken bold steps to stop that. You know why Americans will not destroy their institution? Guess what? When President Trump lost the last election, they had protesters go into the parliament building. But was it destroyed? No. Was it burned down? No. Let me tell you why. These guys have a sense of understanding of the value of such infrastructures.
Right.
And they know that if they destroy it, nobody will go scot. In short, the people that even broke into the parliament building are in jail as we speak. When President Trump came back to office, he released a few because the law will catch up with you. The difference with underdeveloped nations is that there is no form of systematic structure in place to catch people when they do this madness. There's no CCTV, there's no government security systems that can track these people. So because they know that the system is porous and it's only in underdeveloped nations, they do what they do and they get away with it. We saw the case of Kenya, right? Just not too long ago, they got away with it. We saw the case of Nigeria. How do you burn buses, brand new buses that was bought to give you an easy way to move around? I went to Lagos and I wept. Hundreds of buses burnt. Where did they get anybody? No. The same thing would happen in Nepal. But try it in UK, try it in France, try it in US. These systems will catch up with you, and that's the problem. They have systems put in place that will catch up with you, and that's why what's happening. So it's not a protest. When they protest in the US, you see it. Weeks ago, they had at least 100,000 people. What's 100,000? Up to 1 million people protest what the President Trump is doing with ICE to take people out of the country that are illegal migrants. You saw the crowd. Did they kill anybody? No. We saw the attack on one police vehicle, and that attack on the one police vehicle brought down the wrath of the American military on the person that did it, and he was caught and he has been taken out of the US. So it's just the system we have in our climate, especially on the developed nations, that these people will not be caught. You see them robbing, you see them looting. Unfortunately, businesses have gone down. What will happen to the innocent businessmen and women?
While I understand your point, where you say that in developed countries like America, the United Kingdom, you would not see these kinds of protests where massive destruction of properties and lives occur. Don't you think that it's because of the kind of leadership and system that happens over there? Remember, we call them developed countries, and Nigeria is underdeveloped. Other countries are also underdeveloped. We're trying to catch up with most countries of the world. Now, seeing the kind of leadership that happens in Nigeria, and the results that because if they had never come out to protest in the way that they did, the Prime Minister would have never resigned, and we would have not seen the revocation that led to the protest in the first place. Looking at the kind of crowd we have here in Nigeria and the Nigerian people, governance, its culture, what do you think is the best way to demand for the rights of Nigerians?
I've said it, and I always say it. I say you have a right to protest, but you don't have a right to commit crime. Now, if you don't believe that you can protest in a civil manner, and you will not come out to say the civil by criminals, you better stay indoors. Because if it was in a developed nation, you would face the full wrath of the law. If you are the organizer of that protest, you would face the full wrath of the law. Heavily, the law will come down on you. It's no excuse. Whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in any country, it's no excuse. People can protest. People should protest. But you should find a way to protest within the confines of the law. When you travel, you see that Africa and these nations are at least 50 years backwards in infrastructure. You now destroy the little that you have. It's crazy.
Let's talk about some of the lessons that African countries can learn from the protests that erupted in Nepal, and as well their form of leadership. Because, of course, Africa also has a number of youth, a very large number of youth that also dominate even the online platform as it is. So what lessons can the African leaders and African people learn from the situation in Nepal?
It's obvious, from the Arab Springs, it's been obvious that the youths are a ticking time bomb. And the leaders know. I'm telling you, they know. So if they don't see what has happened in Nepal, if you continue to take the youths, the young people for granted, if you continue to push them to the wall, if you're going to put policies in place that would frustrate them, that don't give them any room to dream and aspire, if you cannot project hope to them, I'm telling you, one day you would wake up and you would not have a country. And unfortunately, it would happen in a place where they don't already have infrastructures. And whether you like it or not, those infrastructures will be destroyed.
All right. I think to round up this conversation, what would be your, should I call it advice now? What would be your recommendation for Nepal? And for Nigeria, because there are looming protests in Nigeria. You see that the talks between Pengasa and Dangote brought to the end of the strike that would have led to a protest, because they were ready to demonstrate. Labour had also said they were coming out to demonstrate. Everyone literally wants to strike. Everyone wants to demonstrate. What would be your recommendation?
For Pengassin and Peng, I don't want to comment on that matter because I think it's a private matter that they wanted to bring Nigeria into. But we thank God for the DSS that was able to wade in and ensure that that did not hold. I feel those organizations are somehow structured and organized. Most times their protests are not hijacked. If you look at it, when Pengasi goes on protest, when NLC goes out and protests, it's not hijacked because of structure. Are you getting me? So how would I advise Nepal? They have seen what has happened in their country. What's their advice? They will get an interim government. And when interim government comes, they will have to prosecute, because the protester had a 7-point agenda. They would have to prosecute all the corrupt officials. The Minister of Finance was pushed into an ocean. He was trying to survive. So I'm sure their politicians would have learned a bitter lesson. And I hope that it helps Nepal. But unfortunately, they've gone at least 10 years backwards to rebuild.
Very sad. Thank you so much, Mr. Michel Benama, for your time with us on the show. We do appreciate you.
Thank you
very much. And of course, we've been talking about the protest in Nepal and how it has erupted, how it's affecting the nation, and the lessons we can learn as Nigerians here, of course, because just like Martha stated, there are looming protests in Nigeria. We talked about the 5% tax on fuel, which is supposed to take effect in 2026, January 2026. But of course, we've seen the federal government say that that is going to be put on hold for the now, and that I think is a good thing at this point in time. But of course, your concluding thought, Martha?
Absolutely. I think Mr. Hart has said pretty much everything I would love to say, because yesterday when we had this conversation, I said there's nothing reasonable about destroying the properties or destroying the investments that are within your country. I understand the grievances of the youth, because the idea of these leaders wanting to control the thoughts and literally everything that happens in the social space is very sickening. While that is very understandable, there is no justification to destroying the properties that are being the infrastructure. Because look at it, aside from the fact that it will take you backward, the amount of money that will be allocated for the rehabilitation of these things, there will still be embezzlement there. Look at Dangote, not Dangote, look at the refineries we're talking about. NPC, billions of naira. Now someone is being probed, but I bet you this probe will be on for a very long time. I personally will be following up to see, how this pans out, to see if anyone at all will be held responsible for the amount of money that are being, put in there. So if you continue to destroy these infrastructures, right, monies will be allocated for the rehabilitation of these infrastructures. And if they tell you they spent 10 billion naira, you cannot contest it, because it was allocated to something at least. So, we have to be civil, regardless of the fact that protesters are right, are fundamental human rights. We should be able to do it in a civil manner that doesn't break any law and does not cause the same people that are suffering the same fate as you much more damage.
Of course, just to reiterate what our guest has been saying here, it is your right to protest, but it is criminal for you to commit crime during the protest. This is how we're going to end it on the show this morning. And of course, you can follow us on all our social media pages across all platforms at Rapid TV. And of course, if you missed out on the conversations this morning, you can have a rewatch on our YouTube platform, which is at Official Rapid TV. And remember that anywhere in the world, you can always follow our conversation using our website at www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor RK.
My name is Martha Alu. I'll see you on Friday weekend.
See you tomorrow.